Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl who was loved by everyone who knew her, especially her grandmother. One day, her grandmother gave her a beautiful red cloak with a hood. The girl loved it so much that she wore it all the time, and everyone began calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One bright morning, her mother asked her to take a basket of food and treats to her grandmother's house, which was deep in the forest. "Remember, Red Riding Hood," her mother warned, "stay on the path and don't talk to strangers." With the basket in hand, Little Red Riding Hood set off on her journey, excited to see her grandmother. Along the way, she came across a sly wolf. The wolf, who was very clever and devious, greeted her with a friendly smile. "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Where are you going today?" "I am going to my grandmother's house," she replied, pointing to the direction in the distance. The wolf smiled a wicked smile and thought to himself, "What a perfect opportunity to trick her and get to grandmother's house first." He came up with a cunning plan. "Why not pick up some lovely flowers for your grandmother's along the way?" the wolf suggested, pointing to a path of colorful flowers nearby. "It would make her happy so much." Little Red Riding Hood, always eager to make her grandmother smile, agreed. "Thank you for the suggestion," she said, and wandered off the path to gather some flowers. Meanwhile, the wolf took the shortcut through the woods to reach the grandmother's house. He arrived first, knocked on the door, and pretended to be Little Red Riding Hood. "Who's it?" called the grandmother from inside. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf in a sweet voice, trying to mimic the girl's tone. The grandmother, who was old and a little hard of hearing, called out, "Come in, my dear." The wolf opened the door and, in one swift motion, locked the grandmother away in a closet. He then dressed in her nightgown and cap, climbed into her bed, and waited for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. When Little Red Riding Hood finally arrived at her grandmother's house, she noticed that the door was open. She went inside and immediately felt something strange in the air. "Grandmother, what big ears you have," she said, noticing how strange her grandmother looked in the bed. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," the wolf replied, trying to hide his true nature. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have," Little Red Riding Hood said, growing more suspicious. "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf, still grinning. "Grandmother, what big teeth you have," Little Red Riding Hood exclaimed, finally realizing that something wasn't right. "All the better to eat you with, my dear," the wolf roared, leaping out of bed to grab Little Riding Hood. But just as the wolf lunged at her, a woodcutter who had been passing by heard the commotion. He rushed into the house, swinging his axe, and chased the wolf away. The wolf fled into the forest. never to bother Little Red Riding Hood again. Little Red Riding Hood ran to her grandmother, and together they embraced with relief. The grandmother was safe, and Little Red Riding Hood promised never to stray from the path again. From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood always listened to her mother's warnings and learned an important lesson about staying safe and not talking to strangers.